100% off the strength, man.
Off the strength.
I did it all on the strength, all on the strength. Fuck talking, I'ma do this off the strength.
Run it back, can't relax, that's just facts off the strength.
It's off the strength. Can't get that off the strength.
The racial draft, he would get drafted by the Latins.
Samuel
Jackson.
Okay. Who else is getting in that draft?
Obviously, homie from Bugging Out from.
Of course, he's the president. Juan Carlito.
Juan Carlito is Italian, but he's definitely in Black Spanish for somehow, some way.
He's not only a client; he's a player president.
We just accept it.
What is his nationality? He's Italian for real.
He's Italian.
Oh,
he's Black and Italian. Yo, in New York, that's a strong Dominican right there.
That's a fact. Damn. What's going on, fam? This is KR Jones of the Off the Strength podcast, and I am here to tell you to like, listen, subscribe, and if you're feeling freaky, visit offthestrength.com. That's where you can go and get more information on us. That's where we can link, we can build, we can connect, and let's make this thing work.
Depending on what side of the island you came from, some people was really with it, or some people wasn't. I told you.
That also
I got some kinfolk that was not kinfolk.
Yeah, you talking to me, fam? No,
it's like no, it's not a part of me. Purebred Latin.
You know what I'm
I come
saying?
from the conquistador line only. I told you, your grandfather got straight backs, bro. I seen the picture.
Your grandfather got straight backs. It's crazy.
I saw another culture class happening. Now I see the youth. Right?
Okay, the youth them. Shout out them.
Supreme had a line wrapped around the corner twice.
First mistake right there.
I wasn't trying to go nowhere near there, but it was just in my happenings, in my daily crossings. This is what I saw. Right?
Happenstance.
Everybody was very excited about a ski mask. My question is, when do you wash them damn things? what's proper etiquette on when and how frequently do you wash that?
That's unpacking a mystery that I don't know if you're ready for, the other side of that. Because you got to understand all of the epithelial skills that's going on as you put it on. You got dandruff in your hair, your breath, you know.
You're not wearing it like a hat. You're wearing it all the time. If you're sweating underneath that
it's
thing.
like a pair of drawers for your face.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so you should wash it the same way. But that line around the corner was letting me know these people are going to be having this on for a lot longer than I thought, man.
That's unfortunate.
What's good, everybody? What's good? Welcome back to yet another episode of Off the Strength, where we're giving you the inside look into all things wellness culture. I'm a trainer called Tony, and of course, with me, I have a gentleman of extraordinary league.
KR Jones is in the building.
That's right, folks. We are back. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all type from near and far, you are now in store for a treat because it's the return of the variety show. That's when we give you our best foot forward. So hopefully you take your best foot forward. You do that two-step, that tango, whatever it is you need to do to make it on through the week with the best goddamn wellness information available.
Yeah.
Now, Brother Jones, of course, we are touching down live on the block of the rock. My man, how are you feeling this week?
You know it's that time of the year where I get into my Grinch bag, bro.
It's the most
wonderful time. Anytime I pull the green out, all the tourists is around, all these who's in Whoville, I'm tired of it, man. All the foot traffic is craziness.
You know what I happened upon today is the SantaCon crazies.
Oh.
That's a crowd.
Remember how we got jammed up in the Soho House years back?
Yeah.
After SantaCon.
A whole pandemic, I put it on them. It's like, that was the first year you seen.
SantaCon and COVID did not go together. It took out so many friend groups in one single night.
I'm telling you, that's what happens when you let the B&T crowd inside the city. But nonetheless, how was your week, my friend?
Man, the week was, I could categorize it and sum it up into micromanaged chaos, Tom.
Okay. Let me understand what that means.
It was just one of those weeks where it was just full of so much bull. And it was rough mentally, physically, financially. Like I've been holding on by a thread. You get what I'm saying?
I totally understand.
And I feel like my yoga practice has been a lot more present off the mat than on, if you're picking up what I'm putting down.
I think I am.
And my patience has been tested. I'm feeling like gunplay, Bible on the dash, if you know what that means. If you don't even worry about it. But I'm living just enough for the city, Tone.
Okay. Boy is born.
That's it, you know?
Heart of Mississippi.
How was your week?
Man, I will tell you that I, too, am living just enough for the city.
For the city!
This week has honestly been a bit of a roller coaster for me, my man. I'm going to be honest with you. It is something that the highs and lows of adulting are in the full effect on my front. And I can't tell you that I don't know any weeks that don't have some component of that at least in recent times.
At this point, right?
So I think that's just full swing adulting, man. So first and foremost, I got to shout out to moms. I'm wishing her ease, comfort, and a full, healthy, and happy recovery on her journey that she's going through right now. I also have to shout out John from Psychoholic NYC. That's the homie that we talked about last week, who unfortunately got hit on a ride that was going on, and he is out of surgery and is looking forward to a full recovery as well. Now, we talk about some of the unfortunate parts of this whole lifestyle that is in the cycling thing. So, to understand having your own experiences in that, I'm having my own experiences in that, it's a part of the tax that we pay to do the things that we genuinely love and understand, and I can't wait to see John back out there doing something that he genuinely loves. So on that note, it was a little rocky. But then I started seeing some homies doing some stuff that was really inspirational, man.
Talk about it.
So I gotta salute the good brother Bean Haynes for getting his first film into Sundance. That's something that, again, coming from where we came from, seeing his full spectrum, I always gotta champion that, man. I also got a chance to see two brothers that I've spoken about on this show before, Cootie and Chike, come together, and they released a new film that they're putting out on the basketball player Benji from Chicago. Now, I did not know that story at all.
Yeah, he was one that got lost way too soon.
Way too soon.
Gun violence.
Yeah.
The
Early
legend.
on, I'm talking about the guy who recruited Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Was also recruiting Benji and said that he was the better of the two players. So it gets into a whole different bag.
Yeah. He went to Simeon, which was where Derrick Rose went.
Exactly.
Same shit.
Derrick Rose wore his number. So the whole exploration in what the gun violence, the tragedy is, and all the way through to, they actually talked about the person who committed the crime inside the documentary. Very heavy emotional load. But I was more than happy, again, seeing two brothers that I've known in some way, shape, or form take an idea all the way through to execution, and seeing how they could deliver when the expectation is as high as it is, coming off of what they have just seen their recent success from, is something that brings me into a conversation that I want to start for this week's Ask the Professional, Kyle.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes.
I want to just harken back to Cootie and Chike.
Yeah, for sure.
In the Genius documentary.
Yes.
Because most recently I went back and watched the Through the Wire video again, because that's what they created.
Yeah.
Without context of the Genius documentary, and then having context and then going back to watch the video, it was even crazier because now you can physically put yourself in each of these moments that wasn't there before.
And how long it actually took. So
it took 20 years for this story to come full circle, and it was just a beautiful moment that I had to appreciate and give love to, because that shit was crazy.
And shout out to these brothers again. Their good brother, my brother Kurt Work, is somebody that was in that office in the video that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So all of that to say, Kyle, is what's going to bring me into the Ask the Professional this week, and the theme of it is easier said than done. Right? So in my current phase of building, I'm learning a lot of lessons that I know, proof positive, are going to be extremely valuable. They're just not financially rewarding today.
Yeah.
Right? And coming off of what I just finished talking about, I seen two brothers that I know come from a similar circumstance that I come from. Maybe they're looking at exploring their art through a different lens. The reality of what is versus the potential of what could be is a daily tussle that I know I've seen them fight at different points in time, right? So where self-doubt comes in that whole process, Kyle, self-doubt, I've seen it do more damage to more creatives than anybody externally has ever been able to produce, right? So this week, I want to know some of your thoughts on how can someone effectively overcome a limiting mindset and push through self-doubt to achieve a mental goal, a wellness goal, or especially just overcoming the odds against some type of adversity when everything seems overwhelming.
Man, that's a hell of a question. That's $1 million question. And that's something that I struggle with. That's a day-to-day practice. That's a daily practice. And the work that you put into that, it's going to be different every single day. And when you really unpack what it takes to get into this level of what it could be, what you know it is, what you feel like, it's so many elements that add up into this pot of what success looks like. There has to be steps in place, and there has to be some type of consistency in place. You're never going to be able to, profit off of the feeling, so to speak. You only profit from the work, and the work only comes from it being repetitive and it being consistent enough for somebody to go back and be like, yo, you did this, that, and that. Like, when it's as simple and elementary as show your work, right? When you were in math, you had to do simple math, little arithmetic. How did you get this answer? I need to see how you got here. That's the same thing that transitions into what you feel as opposed to what you know in your mind and what you physically want to see. Because until other people physically see it, it's just in your head. It's just the idea, and that shit will eat at you. It will erode the inside out, and that's how you get shit like cancer and all these other things that build up in your body because you haven't been able to fully express this idea, this passion, and articulate it in a way that other people can understand it. So until you can really simplify enough to the point where you can show your work, you can show what this thing is, then it's just an idea. And that idea is like a flame in the cold, right? It's going to blow a little bit. And then if you don't keep stoking it, you don't keep other stuff to burn it, that's just going to burn out.
Yeah. And the burnout part, I think, comes from the banality of everything that feels like it's not working in the times of uncertainty.
Yeah.
It comes from that. The pain of being normal when everything else around you is extraordinary. It's like, I don't know if you understand, in that whole spectrum of what, and just put it back to creative control Cootie and Chike got for the Kanye doc, fam, the whole time in that 20-year time span, somebody was going to try to buy that for much less than what they actually got it for. Yeah. Somebody thought that was either not worth anything or that it was going to be worth something that they weren't going to be able to have access to eventually, right? So you have to have a different level of fortitude and a different level of confidence and belief in, hey, I didn't just do this for no reason, even when people outside of you don't see the value in it. It has to be something that it does get shaken at sometimes, and if you could weather the test and the storm of whatever's shaking you at that particular point in time, I've seen enough people in my direct life make it proof positive that it's the long game that ends up being the one that you really wanted to play anyway. So whatever
20 years.
Yeah. Whatever instant gratification that came from it, you probably are not going to be as happy as if you waited that 20 years and saw it. Fam, I could tell you what the conversation sounded like when homies was living together in Harlem versus how that conversation hit when we was out in LA. It's like, the level of conversation was like, oh, that 20-year run was, hey, there was some compounding interest that was happening here. You pivoted from doing one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next, and that kept allowing a spirit of innovation going. So I was close that out just by saying it's never going to be linear, fam. No. It's like, even in that example, and then the next thing that they see, hey, we're expecting another one of these to come out of whatever you just put out and where you want to go. To have the bravery to tell a story that you want to tell after everybody externally is putting all this other expectation on you, that's also something that is testimony to your character, of your intent, where you want to take that and go forward with it. So I champion anybody who is daring to be great to really take that on with the same level of commitment.
Man, that's heavy. And I don't even have too much else to add, but really just focusing in on Cootie and Chike and this Benji story. There's so much richness in Chicago that I don't think we've only scratched the surface on when you get into a story like Kanye. But then when you get into something like a Cabrini Green, like in the projects, and like how that got knocked down and what that looks like present day, or even a soul sound with somebody like Fem, right? Where you get into the Fem and the Mick Jenkins side of things, where it's like a poetry scene that like only seems to breathe because of somebody like Common. It really is like one of those cities where it's not quite a Motown. Like, we don't look at it in the sense of like, this is where this sound came from, but it shaped a lot of the world.
It's big and it's small at the same time because it's still, compared to, like I say, in New York City, the black people in Chicago hung out with the black people in Chicago. Yeah. There wasn't really a whole lot of
it wasn't at River North, you know what I'm saying? It was on the south side.
Yeah, you had to be, if you were doing the cool stuff in that community, there wasn't a whole lot of intermingling, from my standpoint, that city had a very clear line as to like where that was allowed, where it's not allowed. Yeah. Compared to New York, where you can have the racial divide, the economic divide, all the rest of that kind of stuff kind of blurs away because we don't have that much space. It's a little more spread out. Things have a little bit of a thicker, bold line between where you could go and where you can't go. So if you were at all in that space, you had some crossover from the artists to the sports and everything else. You know how this stood out the most in this documentary specifically? I'm going to ask you to think about who Benji's partner was on this basketball team that definitely was in the documentary. That was a surprise for me, that might have had to have some kind of, let's say, discourse about him specifically participating in the film before it went forward.
His partner?
Yeah, he was on the team.
You talking about Robert?
Robert was definitely dropping buckets, bro.
I already know. He had the ball.
He was dropping buckets.
You had to have, you know what I'm saying? Sell crack rock or a wicked jump shot. We already understand that, but we're not going to talk about Robert. We're not giving him the day. None of that.
I'm just saying.
Notice how I skipped over him. There's so many other. We got Barack. We got.
He was there,
Bernie
bro.
Mac.
You have to contest
Deion
with
Cole. There's so many other Chicagoans that we can talk about. We ain't talking about that fool.
He was there.
Twister, you know.
All right. I'm gonna read the room. I'm gonna move forward.
Thank you.
I'm just letting you know, Rob was dropping buckets, man. I was like, damn, yo.
That means nothing to me. I hope he's getting buckets dropped on him. That's what I hope.
All right, we're going to move out of that. Something to get into. A little good, a little bad. And we're going to talk about a little bit of ugly this week. That's right. It's time for this week's episode of Rip from the Headlines. And Brother Jones.
What's the word?
We have been talking about a certain compound and the type of plant for a few weeks on the show that I am seeing is definitely increasing in popularity. So much so that institutions that formerly had harsh stances on cannabis are now having to start to evolve their ways about thinking of it. So this week, I saw the NFL take a bold step forward and come up with new regulations around their cannabis policy, specifically around their THC threshold. So before we even get into that story, I think of how people during the prohibition era of cannabis inside sports specifically were kind of ostracized. I think of the Ricky Williams kind of situation, you know, where they kept coming back to homie and it was just like, nah, we got to bench him. We got to find him. You know, fast forward to today, the Players Association and the NFL have come up with an agreement that increased the threshold for THC levels inside of players if you get tested, right? Now, this is because cannabis has been associated with having different abilities to treat pain, and people have used it recreationally during their off season for as long as, honestly, it's been available to most people, bro. So, formally, a positive test for THC would result in fines up to like $45,000, or you're missing games, or even worse, inside of their penalties. In this new evolution that they just rolled out, we're going to lower these fines to about $15,000 if you're really abusing the threshold, and then you're able to wipe your slate clean with good behavior going forward, right? So they're still not fully accepting of what's going on, and they still see that it's something that has potential there. But more importantly, I saw something that was a little concerning to me. They also had to make a announcement on their fentanyl test threshold and what mandatory actions come along with fentanyl. Now, fentanyl does not come with a suspension, does not come with a fine. It just comes with mandatory counseling that has to incur. So what are your thoughts on hearing that even in 2024, cannabis still has this kind of stain on it from big institutions, that something that's literally taking people out in the streets, left and right, can get you not even a fine by the powers that be?
There's a lot to unpack there. First being, when we're looking at an organization like the NFL, like a regulatory institution like the government, it's problematic. That's number one. Number two being, when you look at the stain, as you said, for what cannabis does, or the, you know, the imprint that it kind of leaves, it's interesting and very reminiscent of, you know, what's that, the Reagan era, or better yet, the Bill Clinton laws, where it's like 3 strikes and you go to jail. Yeah. When you can go to jail for cocaine and you getting 30-year sentence, but you're getting like 8 for a murder. Like, how does that equate, right? When you think about what cannabis can do for the body, for someone that is in such a violent sport. When you think of football, it's the closest thing you're going to get to a gladiator fighting, like the Gladiator movie with Denzel and all that. Like, this is the closest thing that we have to that. You have to recover from such abuse that you're doing to your body, but then you balance that with some fentanyl. Like, the Fenty pack is crazy because not only is it heavy in the streets, it's killing people, and it's been popping up more and more on street drugs. And I just saw a video the other day of it popping up in the grabba that people smoke. So it's now making its way into tobacco and hooking people in different ways. So there's a lot of negatives. The institutions are always late behind the streets, and I feel like there needs to be more of a retroactive kind of rule adjusting situation for the social climate as it is, not how it used to be, or even plan for what it could be.
I think it comes down to two things in my measure. One is grown and not largely underneath the same kind of scrutiny that you would see in like the pharmaceutical kind of industry. So one is coming from people can grow this anywhere you really want to.
Yeah.
There's better, worse, all different types of growing conditions, but one is grown. One is exclusively coming from the pharmaceutical industry, right? One competes with the contracts that you have with beer and alcohol right now. One does not. So in all of that, I can see that there's more to the story as to why they probably are more harsh on one as compared to the next. Like, we're not at the day where there's going to be a competitor to Budweiser that comes from actual Bud, right? We're not at that level. We're not at that phase yet. But guaranteed, hey, if I make something that makes people feel this kind of great and stuff, I don't want a competitor to be inside here too. So I want somebody to be actually penalized for the thing that honestly does less damage than most of these other substances. But more will be revealed, Kyle, because that kind of truth is not going to be left up to people to just decide. You're going to see it play out long term, man. So that's it from that story. I want to move into the next one, Kyle. I looked at Time Magazine's 200 best inventions of 2024. Now, Kyle, 200. They had a list of 200. 2024.
Absolutely not.
They had a list, right? Now, I'm not even going to go through the entire list. There was a clear winner that should be at the top of everybody's list, and I'm looking at Skip for coming out with MoveWear as the innovation that is going to be on the top of my list. Now, Kyle, the company Skip came out with this collaboration with Arc'teryx, right?
Give me the spelling on Skip.
Skip is just SKIP.
Okay.
It's nothing fancy.
The irony, but go ahead. Lay it out.
Right? They came out with this prototype of an exoskeleton that really is supposed to help you.
Stop right there. You lost people on exoskeleton already.
So it is.
Unpack that.
It's a piece of hardware that goes outside of these pants that they made, right?
Okay.
Now, this hardware is called the Mountain Goat, or the Mogo for short, right? The Mountain Goat is going to not only have a long-lasting rechargeable battery, it's going to have smart software and motors that can automatically detect your gait and decide when they want to help you, right? So you can make yourself feel up to 30 pounds lighter from having this exoskeleton on you, right? And making users be able to exercise who previously did not have the same range of motion, previously did not have the same kind of body function. This is really something that has cut through and made it significantly easier for people who had chronic knee pain to start to move around. And they're showing in all of the videos, people hiking, people working out again, and having this thing that is not really a big, bulky kind of situation, just on a pair of pants. So I saw this and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. This is the kind of future that I've been waiting for to come faster and faster towards fruition.
Yeah.
The downside to this is that the $5,000 price tag is going to mean that there's going to be a couple people who can't really wear these pants just yet.
For sure.
Right? I think you asked me a couple weeks back what I would splurge on. All my old heads, if I ever get the bag back, I'm putting these pants on everybody. We're going to be hammer dancing out here, bro. Everybody's out and moving.
Absolutely not.
With the new legs, man.
I really want to unpack this for the listeners out there, because I know there's some people that's not really picking up what you're putting down. And when we talk about this technology, so to speak, this is the closest thing to Will Smith and iRobot, right? Like, you really are making this technological advance that will help you walk and improve your gait. And it just sits outside of your pants, right? Like, imagine something a little less than like an ACL brace you ever see when people have like a knee brace for surgery. Imagine a quarter of that you have to charge to wear, and it's going to give you the feeling of being 30 pounds lighter? Absolutely not.
No, I'm all the way here for this.
None of this. This is
First
problematic.
Of all, you are
wait till you start moving your legs without your consent, and then what? When your lower body just pick up and start walking towards your death, what are you going to do?
Somebody hacking your legs would be a bad time, right? It could
when
be.
Your legs can get hacked, how do you fight that?
I'm going to challenge you as a person who's just recovering from an ACL injury and from also another injury sustained to your lower body.
Yeah.
I know that if you had a pair of fresh pants that you could throw on and you take your ass outside and walk around with the power strut, you absolutely would have had those on.
Absolutely not. We not doing none of the above. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing the little shoes that make you glide walk. You know what I'm talking about. You can put that in that box. We can put all of this nuanced recovery stuff that can charge and improve your mobility. Just move your body without it, and you can get better results.
Some people cannot move. The threshold is
and they
not.
Also can't afford $5,000
They probably
pants.
can. Now, I was about to say, wait a minute. The caveat is there. Now, I do understand this ain't going to be for everybody, right? And at the same point in time, you should not get the bootleg version of these move pants out here. Because
they're
there's going to be
on the
somebody
streets.
that's coming up with a knockoff.
Somebody's legs will be walking without them.
Start you in the wrong direction, right? So if you're going to make a purchase, just make sure you make the right purchase. I see where it can go wrong. And I still decide to look forward to a more hopeful future, Kyle, because that's the kind of person I am. Now, Kyle, I also saw another product that didn't quite make it, but I saw some hope in this, man. Now, I was looking at different in-home trainers on the bike, right? So I'm talking about the Wahoos, the Zwifts, anything in that nature, because it's getting too
What you just called me?
Zwift and a Wahoo, right? The at-home stationary bike trainers, right? So it's getting too damn cold to be out here like I used to be, bro. I'm getting older in my old age. I don't want to be out and about the way that I used to.
Battling the elements.
Right?
Yeah.
But I do want to keep up a certain level of training, right? Now, Kyle, I saw in an article I was looking at Fast Company, and I saw that there was a company that came on the market that didn't quite make it, but it looked like it was pretty damn cool, and I wish I also had another bag to blow on this. I saw the eBuv bike from Activetainment. The eBuv bike is the first ever BMX bike trainer. So you could do full types of articulation and movement with this eBuv bike, man. I'm talking about you're doing jumps, you're riding around on a course. Everything that you could possibly think of that you could do on a BMX bike was possible on this trainer. So from that standpoint alone, I thought it was cool. Now, this also probably was something that was ridiculously expensive, so couldn't make it work. Do you have any pieces of technology that came out that you thought was cool that didn't ultimately make it on the market?
Absolutely not. Like, the stuff that you're laying out is so far advanced from people that don't even know their Wi-Fi password to share with somebody else. They still going to go read the back of the box.
Doug, if I had the space and time for this, I would definitely be playing the video game doing BMX jumps.
Trainer. Imagine, like, I'm just thinking of like Christmas when I was 10 and I got, Tony Hawk Pro Skater on PlayStation 2.
But you was actually skating.
Right. Now, if I could then take me freestyle skateboarding on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 in real life on a BMX bike.
Exactly.
No.
I want that.
I don't want that. I am here for the training indoor elements. Like outside, it's a little too cold for me to be outside on the bike present day. So if I could train indoors, but I don't know if I need the BMX
it's a very realistic bike
simulation in the crib.
I thought it was dope. So famous things.
Is it exercise or just pure enjoyment?
It's Activetainment. It's both. That's the name of the company. That's no longer here.
What kind of metrics are you giving me to improve this? Like,
get some air. You remember Tony Hawk? Sick tail flip, bro.
Right? That's a backspin 180.
Exactly.
He just did a can. You're like, who's naming these moves,
It's
man?
amazing. We needed more diversity in those rooms, man. Yo, all right. So gear that flop for me. You remember your first MP3 player?
Of course.
What was that?
Like, are we talking like actual
MP3 player? Just the name
I couldn't afford an iPod.
That's exactly what I'm
so
talking
it was
about.
like it was like a Zune or some shit like that.
There's some shit on the list that flopped.
I think it was like a Zune. That sounds about right. And it looked iPod-ish, but it wasn't iPod.
Adjacent. It was iPod. See? All right. Game system that you like but really flopped.
Oh man, I love the Dreamcast.
The Dreamcast was mine. It's like, yo, they had the little screen on the middle.
It was
they
a
had all that
GameCube
stuff.
too. The GameCube flopped before the Dreamcast did.
Dreamcast made a lot more sense, but it never really did the numbers that it should have done, right?
Yeah.
The last one that I thought, them damn springs in the back of them Vince Carter shoes.
Oh man,
like,
the bounce.
I wish that they bounced away.
Improve your vertical. Every person you've seen with them look foolish.
Yeah, it never worked out, but
Take them silly ass shoes off.
you thought you was gonna be boinging inside here.
You just improved your silliness, not your vertical.
Right. Last thing that I'm going to touch down on this week, man, is an article coming out of Essence where I think this was one of the most, I'd say, brilliant moves as an Essence writer that somebody actually pulled off. But they came out and talked about how to combat seasonal depressive disorder with an actual vacation, right? So there was a black woman who was a writer, And she said that, you know what, I need to go back and I need to undo some of the seasonal affective disorder. The best way for me to do that is to take a vacation at a seasonal affective disorder clinical facility. Like this facility called Nomad in Tulum is actually founded by somebody who has taken a very specific path on trying to make depression something that is no longer felt. And they said that specifically, Black women do not tend to be represented in any of the statistics that come around from seasonal affective disorder. Now, I know we talk about this on here all the time, but there's still some people that are underestimated, and they came off a year where a lot of people feel like they was taking an L. So seeing what they can kind of offer at places like Nomad is something that might be a little interesting. So they, in addition to a whole host of different wellness retreats, they offer ayahuasca ceremonies, other energy healings, things that are going to be in the laser skin treatments, all types of stuff that might be unfamiliar to this population. But you're starting to see a lot of people really seeing that emotional wellness retreats are going to be the things that they want inside this holiday season. Man, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm here for the exploration, especially for Black women, into spaces like this, because these are places that real healing take place that a population like that needs to be in. The other side of this for me is this sound like them $5,000 pants. This sounds like the BMX, simulator that we just discussed. You use the word like vacation. That's something that has eluded me for far too long. I don't have a vacation in me. You said Nomad. That's not in a lot of people's vocabs, nor ayahuasca. They're not around for it.
So you might have missed the flex here. So she was a staff writer that did an assignment about the vacation that she came inside there.
Oh, I see what you did.
So I will see.
I'm talking about.
I'll see you, and I'll say the check raise here is to find
how we do that.
To shine.
Yeah. Listen, if you can write your way out the projects into Tulum, then by all means,
as a wellness professional,
do what you got to do. I'm here for that. I'm speaking for the people that don't got vacaciones in their vocabulary.
They need motivaciones. Get out there and go get it. Figure it out however you need to figure it out, man.
That's it, man. Lay up.
That's going to be it from my side of Rip from the Headlines, man. What's your thoughts?
Man, that was a lot. My Rip from the Headlines is short, is sweet. I'm going to keep it black. I'm going to keep it brief. Starting out first, we're going to talk about... Now, Nike has been making some moves. And I don't like dropping names or talking too crazy, but what really caught my eye, and we've only scratched the surface on this, but Nike strength training materials. Now, famously, you will remember that Nike had a heavy push into recycled energy, recycled sneakers, like all the things that they were trying to do to like combat global warming. Yeah. And it was really innovative. The innovation in this for me is Nike being able to make dumbbells out of recycled materials that they used to make sneakers with. You remember, I forgot the brand or the naming that they framed a lot of their...
Space Hippies.
Yeah. But it was like a name for like the recycled line that they did, which I haven't seen in a long time. So I guess they back to just making regular plastic. Nonetheless, the strength training equipment. So when you talk about dumbbells, when you talk about plates, things of that nature, being somebody that's in the gym, I vaguely remember just the outdatedness of like iron just being the only thing that you could use, right? Like, and it almost came with like a badge of honor of like, oh, you gotta pick up this 45 that's made out of iron. But I've always actually loved rubber plates a lot more, and I think that this is a natural progression for Nike, but also an innovative one because there's no other brands that are doing anything like this.
Yeah, I think it's something that is showing where they have interest in growing. I think the health and wellness, like physical space in terms of manufacturing like hardware has been the space that could use some type of innovation for a long time. So when a brand that is existing outside of that can also like embed themselves into that world and they know how to do all of the cool Nike stuff, it's very easy to see why this is probably an easier place for them to really compete as opposed to some of the other apparel choices that they're looking at right now.
I feel like I've been giving them a lot of press, so this is my last time talking about anything that they're doing until they cut the check. But everything that you said, I really think they're on the precipice of this innovation that they've always been on. But when you add that to the strength training world, when you add that to this legacy that they've already had, because they've been taking the L on sneakers for a very long time now. And I feel like you can draw that trajectory right to when Kanye left. You know what I mean?
I think it's a couple of things. I think the market has changed, and we also don't care about celebrity athletes the way that we used to care about them.
And you're never going to get another Jordan.
But what you can do is make the at-home athlete the new celebrity.
Yes.
And I think that's what this is like, just reinforcing.
You need to stop talking because somebody's going to steal that right there. The at-home athlete is the new celebrity. That's going to be a new campaign right before our eyes.
I'm trying to tell you, it's a real thing.
Speaking of a new campaign right before our eyes, I want to get into some bad this week. And I think this is going to open the can into a larger conversation. But are you up on Devondre Campbell of the San Francisco 49ers?
No.
He is a linebacker. And just recently in a game for Thursday Night Football against the Rams, he decided to leave in the third quarter. And he just said that he didn't want to play anymore.
Wow.
Now, this is something that has never really happened in the football world that was publicized this way, where you have social media and so many people that can pick up and give their opinions on this. But in short, this is a linebacker that was filling in for what they called the heart and soul of the team. There was another player named Dre Greenland who went down last year in like the Super Bowl, I believe, with an Achilles injury, and he isn't back yet. So he was trying to fill this void. They end up losing season. They the last team in the division. That playoffs isn't looking too good. How do you feel about an NFL player deciding to just leave mid-game because the team isn't where they want to be or where he wants to be?
Honestly, I've seen that happen before. Maybe not to that scale, but we definitely have seen some versions of that play out in sports where you have no idea what's going through this NFL player's mind at any point in time, right? And I can't come off of the celebration of the NFL, like easing some of the tensions around things that literally relieve pain. Like, I don't know what he's feeling physically. I don't know what he's going through emotionally, but there's a long enough history of NFL players dealing with stuff that's outside the X's and O's of the game, making them not want to be the same person that they used to be, right? So for that reason and that reason alone, I can't condemn that person for doing that, right? And I would say also the stakes are so high that if you know in your mind you don't want to be out there, the decision for you to go out there is only going to exponentially put you in a worse position to actually get injured. If your soul ain't in it, and there's a person who is just as equally trained as you are, but is passionate about it, they're going to take you out. So you might mess around and not be able to do anything going forward. So for self-preservation and self-preservation alone, I have to say that this kind of sounds like he's doing what is right for him, and maybe more people should.
And that's the surface that I wanted to stay on, because I'm thinking about this in the lens of Naomi Osaka when she decided not to go out because of her mental health. Right. And this does seem to be more impactful, I guess, these days in the social climate when athletes have a voice, that you have a voice and you have a choice that just seems to be blown up, right? And when you're battling all of these other unseen battles to the public eye, it does feel a bit interesting when the lens is on you, right? When we don't get access to what that story is as to why. And as someone who paid to see you play, as someone who's a fan of the team, am I entitled to that type of, explanation?
You might feel like you are, but let's be all the way real about that. For every one of these individuals, I'm forgetting his name, look at how Antonio Brown looks today. Yeah. Who also walked off the field after a certain point in time, who probably stayed in and got hit one time too many, and everybody just kind of is just known that AB don't sound all the way right
He
anymore.
still put that shit on, but the marbles in his head a little loose.
Right? So how far do you want to put that yourself at that type of risk? Where you know that you're not going to feel this and you already know that you don't want to move in some way, and you have people who are in your contemporary space that are doing legitimately the same thing after football. Listen to how they look and sound. Not everybody gets to be a sportscaster. No. Not everybody gets to have, their Lincoln dealership and everything else that comes along with that, right?
Come on down.
Right? Not everybody got the rib place, you know what I mean? Yeah. Some of these people are in pain irrevocably for the rest of their lives, and they cannot function at a level that would be respectful to their families. I'm never going to knock that, right? And we never really understand the toll and the ticket price that you think that you're entitled to as a fan. You never know what's going through that person's life. You
Not
just
to
don't.
mention, the NFL being the lowest paying, I think, professional sport that you could play. just because you get the least money guaranteed.
Yeah, there's so many more people for sure
because of your contracts. You got a team of 62.
Yeah,
y'all got to
bust that down.
Yeah, this ain't a 12, 15 man roster.
Now you add that to the fact that you like not the first on that, and you going further and further away from the center of where that money is
you
being
the third
going.
String backup.
You know that you ain't supposed to be out here like this. Hey man, I still got some good faculties. I might just pack this in, and I might go ahead and take that new whatever that class is down at the community college over here. Just figure myself out for a little bit.
Listen, but to leave in the third quarter is wild.
No, that is also making a statement.
It's like, hey, I'm good. I'm gonna leave.
Y'all got 15 more minutes. I'm beating traffic.
We gonna slide out of that and talk about this last part that is the ugliest story that I came across as of late. Now, it's been a couple weeks. The ugly is just getting uglier, right? And it's getting sad. And I want to bring our attention to a young lady named Dominique Brown.
Okay.
Dominique Brown was formerly she worked for Disney, right? So she was one of those creators in that Disney kind of world. And she attended a party in which she died of an allergic reaction.
Damn.
Now, before this party began, she had sent what her allergies were to this dinner. It was a dinner event. Like, I have these food allergies. Please don't expose me to such and such. She gets there. Those allergens are present. She has an allergic reaction and then passes away at that event, right? Now, the story hasn't really been getting a lot of coverage like that, right? Naturally, we talked about Black women not being, the forefront of any emotional support, so to speak, right? When I mention a story like this, I'm thinking about my life. I'm thinking about, my lady who out of nowhere grew a pineapple allergy. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I love pineapples, but like I can't have them in her presence just at the risk of getting sick or ill or having to pull out the EpiPen and go into full, SPS 115 in college of like, all right, this is how you save a life. Like, I don't got time to be pulling out
looking like Pulp Fiction in the middle of the living room.
My CPR, resuscitator, none of that shit. Like, those are skills I never want to use, right? Yeah. Like, now, when I put that into the influencer world where you're inviting me into an event that I die at, I'm haunting y'all for the rest of my life. Like, that's craziness to me.
I feel conflicted about this.
Okay.
Right? And one, you never want to hear anybody coming into an unforeseen or unfortunate type of event like that, right? And, again, somebody that comes from a family, they have people that love and care about them at the same time, that's something that's definitely of concern here. And that's the first people that I would want to say, condolences go to. And immediately after that, if I'm that allergic to anything in life, I'm not going out to your party to go eat. I just do like the barrier of responsibility for somebody else to care about my life the way that I care about my life is entirely too loose in a space that I don't know what the kitchen's like. I don't know who's putting all the rest of this stuff together. If you're that allergic, there's just certain parts of life that you just can't participate in. You just can't. You're like, I'm going to trust that the dude in the back didn't put peanuts in this because he cares about my life as much as he should. No, that's the wrong expectation.
Sounds like you're victim blaming, Tony.
I'm not victim blaming. I'm just also kind of be like, okay, in the world, you can't expect everybody else to accommodate and amend everything that you have specifically to you. I just never had that type of freedom in that type of space. Like, if I had an allergy to anything, I just know to avoid that, or I got to go out of my way to stay away from situations that would evoke that. Kind of like, I don't know, what you literally just said about you and your situation. Hey, she's allergic to pineapple, but you go out of your way to not have that be around. Now, I know you are that responsible for this person that you care about.
Yes.
To think that you're going to get, the expectation was, hey, these people who don't care about me should care about me to that level. I'm going to tell you, you're going to be vastly disappointed more times than not in most spaces.
I can accept that as to be fact. I can accept that to be gospel, so to speak. I can't expect other people to have the same type of care and compassion that I would have for myself or that my partner or my loved one would have for me.
Right.
Cool. But if I then have this reaction in this space, I'm expecting somebody to call an ambulance. I'm expecting somebody to have an EpiPen. I'm expecting somebody to have someone who can handle a situation like this where I don't die.
Yeah, no, that's negligence. That's not even, I'm not excusing that standpoint at all. But the reality of what your expectation is for the world to do. This is that social lens, that goldfish distortion is like, yo, the world don't really move like that. I don't know how many people, great places do care about you that much, right? I don't know how many great places I've come across in all of my life that would be like, nah, each one of our customers need to be treated like this.
We got care for them.
It's like, exactly. No. It's like, yo,
make sure you leave a tip. Get your ass up out of here.
I was about to say, go take that to the sweet treat spot around the corner and see. It's like, yo, I'm allergic to macadamia. And they be like, I don't know if it's in there or not, dog. You want to buy it? If you want it, you can have it. If you don't, I don't get paid enough to care about what you're allergic to like that. And that's just the brass tacks of it.
And that's ugly.
It is. It definitely is.
There's nothing better or worse. That's just nasty business. You hate to see it. So we got to slide out of that. We got to get into a little raising the bar segment, brother.
Let's raise it up then, man. Ladies
and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all types from near and far, you are now in store to raise your bar. Brother Tone. Now, I want to pick up this story briefly on what we scratched the surface on with Devondre Campbell in the 49ers. And the question that I want to pose is, how do you know when it's time to walk away? Right? Like earlier when we talk about Ask the Professionals and you laid out the story of Cootie and Chike and this 20-year journey of a story and a richness where the faith that they stepped out on is seeming less and less and slim these days. But present day, I feel like there has to be a moment when you have to cut your losses and realize, all right, I need to pivot. This isn't it. The main goal can always be the goal, but knowing when to walk away, I feel like is one of those spaces that I'm still trying to figure out. It took me a while to even understand, but I can say my last 2 places of employment got to see 2 cheeks on my way out, and I told them to kiss them. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what type of employment
kiss you my had. Bumper, right? It was like, hey, listen, here go my ass. You can kiss it, right? Right there.
It's like your hiring process is different.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just letting you know where I was at with it. You know, and I think as I start to unpack that, we end up in a space where I'm talking about value, where I'm talking about quality of life, and I'm talking about what I can and what I can't tolerate. We always leverage that with even the episode last week where I'm talking about my pops in the older generation of staying at a job for 20 years, which is oddly similar to Cootie and Chike staying with this vision for 20 years of what this larger story could be. Different paths, but of the same ilk, so to speak. When I'm leveraging that in present day, whereas I'm, hauling oats. Like, I can't go for that. Like, I literally can't stand to be in a space where I feel disrespected, where I feel unwelcomed, I feel unappreciated. I don't see my productivity rising. I got to step. And it took me a while to be able to articulate why and when I couldn't exist in a space. Right? Like, I'm thinking about nature and like turtles, right? You get a turtle, depending on the space that you put it in. If there's a tank, if you put a turtle in a small tank, it'll stay small. If you put a turtle in a big tank, it'll grow a little bit bigger. Me, I'm the turtle. That's it. The Ninja Turtle. Tony, I'm Michelangelo, Donatello, all of them. I love pizza and full body karate. You know what I'm saying? But when I put myself in that space, I then think about, one, what do I need to do what I need to be fulfilled, right? Like, what is fulfilling me in this space? Am I contributing? Is my contributions being welcomed? Am I thriving? Am I growing? But then the other side of that is, well, everyone has to do a job that they hate. Is that necessarily true, right? Do I have to exist in this space that I don't like in order to make a living, right? Like, it brings me all to this question for you. Brother Tone.
Yes, sir.
As a journeyman such as yourself, is no stranger to moving on when the time is right. What advice could you give somebody facing such a decision off the strength?
First thing I would ask is, honestly, if you have an expectation to do something or be somebody extraordinary in any way, shape, or form, are you willing to do the things that are going to require you to put up with some level of discomfort for long enough to achieve these, right? Everybody loves Kobe Bryant today, right? We look back and look fondly on Kobe, Mamba mentality, all the rest of that stuff. Now, there's some people who actually had to live through Mamba mentality that don't have the fondest of story about Kobe Bryant when he was doing that. Because there's a person who is so committed to a disproportionately unrealistic dream that they're going to put in the time, the energy, the effort, and everything else that they think is going to be plausible to achieve the goal that they see themselves achieving, right? So they talk about Kobe looking at game tape and then going to looking at how sharks are moving in the water, looking at how panthers are moving, all the rest of that kind of stuff. Do you think he loved the process of that, or did he love the result of that?
I would have to say he loved the process.
And that's kind of my point. Now, if you love the process of it, right, it doesn't mean that you are not going to accrue discomfort along you finding the different process towards that. But realize, to get that much of a competitive advantage amongst anybody else that you are also competing against, it is going to require you to sacrifice some of the stuff that people might associate you with having a great time. Now, we all used to think Michael Jordan was the best person in the world. He was...
Person is a stretch.
I would say for the long lens of time where he didn't have the personal sides of his story coming out, he was just much like any other of these... mythical creatures, kind of childhood heroes.
Great Bambino,
right? These are people who could not be taken down until you start to look at what it costs them to live like this, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a distorted worldview on what it actually costs to get the thing that you're saying that you want. Now, I cannot tell you that I've ever come across something that is that worth it that didn't require that kind of sacrifice, and it's not going to look the same for every single thing, but it's almost a misnomer to expect joy out of every aspect of life, because you would not appreciate joy if you never experienced pain. So I think your endeavors inside of any kind of career path or any type of path towards purpose inherently are always going to have a space where you're going to have an opportunity to not do this, right? The people who decide to stick it through and the people who decide to pivot, however they decide to pivot, are not pivoting solely because they're strictly still dedicated to this one area. They might want to give it up too. That tussle that we talked about at the top, it is, hey, this might not be working. This might not be going through. That self-doubt sneaks in right in those moments. And it is a disproportionate belief in self that allows you to say, you know what, I still got to find a way to make this work. Hey, we might not be able to get the documentary that I want to shoot, but I'm going to go do a bunch of videos until somebody sees me do these videos enough to give me an opportunity to go and do the documentary that I want to do. That's actually what the path played out as. We started off here. We want to do a production company. We want to do X, Y, and Z. Nobody's funding that right now, but I can get a bunch of people who think you kind of have a creative thing that works. And now you understand the business of making that creative thing work to still level it up and scale to the thing that you actually wanted to achieve. I think now more than ever, everybody is going to find out, harshly or not, you're not going to get paid for one thing anymore and it be a sustainable thing for your life. Look at every scale of what's happening across the economy. You don't see doctors who are not concerned with having something to sell you, having a presence somewhere else. And, you're seeing people who are at the affluent scales of life having to diversify how they keep an affluent scale of life.
Yeah.
You're on the forefront of understanding how everybody is going to have to develop some level of entrepreneurialism in their life to make their life sustainable. Now, the lessons that you have learned relative to when everybody actually finds out about this is going to be a sizable gap in how you proliferate and perform through there. You decide when you want to walk away when it does not serve you, when it does not feel like you have the hope of actually changing or correcting that course.
Now, but that's the area that I want to stay in, right? Because everything else that you just laid out is a fact. There's people that have to expand into growing their personal brand or just other ways to make money to sustain this lifestyle. But knowing when something isn't serving you, knowing when you have to walk away, I want to just kind of distill what that feeling is like and like, how does that show up for people? Like, how can I recognize, this is the space where I need to pivot to go somewhere else so that I can achieve this goal that I have, but I just can't do it this way.
Yeah, I think it has to be such an individual task and an individual knowing that it's hard to say across the board it would be the same for everybody. Like my hard line, I could be uncomfortable. I'm never going to be disrespected. That's just what my hard line is. And I could even take on more than what most people would see. Like I would do and learn and put the process in, stoke every flame that I can in order to get to that greater good. What I'm not going to be is underrepresented when that greater good does come, right? So there are certain aspects that you learn as you're trying to tailor this and trying to make this work for you that if it's going to work for you, you're going to have to figure out all the ways that it can't work for you first. So it's, hey, I'm never starting something that looks like and feels like this. I just can't do it. And that's honestly your internal barometer. If you feel like somebody is actively disrespecting you, if you feel like somebody is not caring about the proliferation of what you want to bring forward in life, and if you want to even say the sustainability of how you get to feed and clothe your family and all the rest of that, if those people are not the people that you want to work with, I would champion you not to do that. You also have to take everything that comes with what you inherently have decided on once you decide not to do that. You don't get to make one decision that is going to be not consequential further down the line. It's like to not deal with anybody or not have anybody be able to talk to you either kind of way. You're going to have a very finite parameters of, hey, these are the options that you do have. That's fine if you don't want everybody to talk to you however they get to talk to you. You don't want to do this corporate structure where you get to, merit your way up to middle management and go forward from that. You never have to do that, right? Okay, but now
The boss's secretary.
right? What you have decided to do is this uncharted shit where it's kind of like, hey, if you have specific expectations on something that's uncharted, it's going to be hard for you to get to that landing spot. And you're going to have an aperture that is a little bit wider than most people would. And I know most people are not built for that. Most people want certainty. Most people want and have a level of, yeah, I need to know that this is going to pay out the right way, and I need to know that this is going to do that. Most people are never going to watch fucking Animal Planet to figure out how to play basketball better. It's like, but the people that do, hey, I can just tell you where it ends up.
Sharks are sharks. And I guess what I was really trying to hearken in on or zero in on is this work of building that internal barometer of where your line is. Where is the true essence of that work, right?
I have a vast and rich connection to the patriarchs in my life that I've architected what I would say it means to be a successful man after. And I would say that's the best honest answer that I can have as to why I would or would not do something. Like, there needs to be a value system that you have that answers strictly to what your values are and where you got it from. What's your come from? Who are the people that matter to you? Who are the people that told you, hey, this is how you need to move when you do get something. This is how you move when you don't have something. This is how you move in a room full of vultures. This is how you move legitimately when everybody is, on the up and up smiling faces and everything else like that. I have a code that is not going to be shaken by any of the financial circumstances that I have. It just is not. Now, it's going to look different at different points in times. I will see the same level of respect when I have money as I will when I don't have money. I'm not going to let that be at all up for debate. It's just not where I come from.
Even if I ain't got it, I look like I got it. Damn it.
You better understand that you can't talk to me like I don't have it. It's like, you just got to understand that.
Get your broke ass.
That's the easiest way to get, that will have a specific adaptation to that imposed demand.
Yes.
It's like,
Understood.
You will meet all my pain principles.
You gonna respect me as a man.
Yeah. So on that and that alone, I think that is, for not the hyperbolic sense of it, but it is something that is at the end of the day, when I close my eyes, I know who I'm trying to live up to.
You stood on business.
I stood on what I was given.
Okay.
I was too much a sacrifice for me to see this day. Too many people have put out too many different types of their best version for me to get all of their best and me to give slightly less than that, or me to accept something that's not going to be something that we ever accepted and stood for. So I couldn't do it. But anything short of that, I got a template that I know if there's anybody that's coming after, I got a whole different set of templates. Hey, listen, there's some pitfalls to this line of logic, young man.
Listen,
this is where you go wrong here.
If her name is Chandrell, stay away from her. All right.
And the goal is to keep updating the context as you push it forward, man. So I don't have a specified line other than what am I actually doing this for? Who am I around? What am I tolerating? What is never tolerable? And that would be the easiest barometer. Like, there is a such thing as a sunken cost fallacy, and there are certain aspects that just don't work from a measurable standpoint in terms of what the business is or what success can be derived to. But if I go all the way back and I'm saying that value was never about what these people are measuring it by, and honestly, their goal is to devalue or not even accredit you from the beginning, you just have to find a better system for that. Well, I have the belief that everything in life is figure outable. I actually believe that I'm also not less than most of the people that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people. I actually think we're all coming from the same spot, even if I don't have what they have. So I don't ever feel like I'm going into a room where I can't figure it out if I'm given the opportunity to do that. So I just keep fighting, keep swinging. Now, every day ain't going to be the easiest, but that's what my come from is.
I think that answers the question that I was trying to figure out. And I think that when you analyze your come from, when you take the time to really put that magnifying glass on what makes me up, right? Like, everybody wants the feeling, nobody want to pay the price.
Yeah.
Right? And if the world moved on how you felt when you felt it, it would be a completely different place. And
I have my robot pants on right now.
You and those robot pants can walk your way up out of this subject and this topic. Just to put a bow on it.
5 stacks on them pants, bro.
Just to put a bow on the hammer dance and these robot pants. I would like to think that when the time is right, you'll know internally. Not to get too spiritually woo-woo and all that, but I do think that there's a frequency in life, and when that frequency is off, it's off. Right? Like it's palpable. You can understand that. It's up to you to then put in that work to, retune, realign, recalibrate to get that station better, like on the radio. For hopefully it's some young people out there that know what a radio is.
You just aged yourself.
Man, all right. Well, if you ain't on the right station, sometimes you got to turn that dial just a little bit to get where you need to be. And I hope you take that with you in the life. Now, sliding out of that, we can only slide into a relaxation responsibly segment, Brother Tone.
Okay, what's this Relax Responsibly brought to you in part by today, good brother?
Relax Responsibly is brought to you in part by me. That is KR Jones, and I am personally inviting you to come and kick it with me at Frequency Movement. I have 2 offerings. One is Roll Up and Roll Out. That's where we elevate and then we stretch for about an hour. We go through some mobility from the feet all the way up to the crown of the head and just kind of loosen up to create some space. Now, elevated yoga is different because that's our yoga flow. So we still elevate if you're picking up what I'm putting down, but then we also start to create different shapes with our body and really make a sweat. Come see me. The end of the year is here. So there's single digits left in classes. So we talking Wednesday night at 8 or Saturday at 11. You probably got 2 more chances, and I'm going to see you in 2025.
Hey, start the year off right. Make sure you slide into a good mobility pattern with my good brother over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There we go, man. So how were you relaxing?
You know how I was relaxing this week, Brother Tone? That happens to be a new documentary out on HBO Max. This documentary is indeed about yacht rock.
Okay.
Now, you know how I feel about yacht rock.
You was getting your Toto on.
When I tell you, I already knew how I felt about it, but then when you learn about the origins and understand that the term yacht rock came from a comedy web series about soft rock.
A podcast, if you will.
And they was literally just talking about, hey, this specific genre, I see this guy over here made the Michael Jackson song, he made the Toto song, he also was on the Stevie Wonder album, but then he worked with Kenny Loggins, and it's just like you start doing the math, and it's like, damn it, yacht rock is infectious, it is amazing, and I couldn't live without it.
I'm happy that you found your relaxation through some, very calm, tranquil sounds, Kyle, that get you so excited, but also so relaxed at the same time.
At the same damn time, it's soft rock, but it's yacht rock because, you listen to it with a yacht kind of mind. You're just kind of easing on the water on the dock of the bay. You know what I mean?
There's probably not a lot of yachts in yacht rock.
It is none, actually. Not even captain hats. They even unpacked the captain hat in the concerts.
It just was Tennille and them.
That was one dude. That was one dude with like one song. And that just took on a whole image for a whole genre of music.
Yeah, shout out to them though, man. It still gets a good vibe going, man. The Blue Eyed Soul is definitely heavy inside there.
Yacht rock.
Man, yeah, honorable mention. It's not in the yacht rock kind of situation, and it's not how I was relaxing. But speaking of music that is getting you into the relaxing side, did you see any of the information from Timbaland and Apple Plus teaming up?
You goddamn right I did.
I'm really happy to see more and more of the people who were championed inside of the music industry start to ease their ways into health and wellness. So
yes.
Seeing this brother do not only guided tours for the Walking Apple Plus app, he's also lending his musical prowess inside of some of the classes that you will hear in
We
there.
all knew that was going to happen.
But see, I don't know if we did. A lot of people saw some of the stuff coming out of the Verses, and they never saw how Verses would evolve. But he always has had a relationship with Apple. So this is not shocking or surprising.
Yes.
But it is something that I like to see in the evolution. Hey, you don't got to keep everybody headbanging all the time. Actually, I can get you to chill the fuck out sometimes, too.
I mean, Little John stepped into that
Exactly.
for a little bit where he had his meditation app. But what I love about Timbaland is when you unpack his story, he battled near-death experience with his weight, but then also he battled addiction.
Exactly.
And he started to fix addiction with wellness, with movement, and combining that with his music. So I love that story. I want that brother to work a little bit on his neck a little bit more to get his gizzard right. You know what I'm saying? It's a little
We're
loose.
not going to do that. Man lost 130 pounds, Kyle. We're not going to knock him out for that.
I'm just, listen.
Let me talk about how I was relaxing. We're not going to knock this man's success. Salute to him. That was a quick shout out. We're not going to talk about all that. That's very, very hateful language that you're using for my relaxation segment. So, one of the ways that I was relaxing this week, man, I actually had to do a favor for my friend, and I actually had to go pick their kids up from school. Now, I will
Absolutely
tell you,
not.
So, I'm at that phase of my life where it's just kind of like, all right.
You was on the visitor list?
Masterful adulting coming in there. Walking into a school where I guess the kids are anywhere age from like, let's say 4 up to like whatever just before you go to high school is.
Okay.
The visitor list is an interesting list. The pickup line is an interesting line.
I believe it.
Looking the way that I look and presenting the way that I present in this visitor line and picking up the kids the way that they look was the topic of conversation for everybody for the PTA meeting that day.
Yikes.
I had a genuine laugh
Please
at everything in there.
Disclose the race of the children you were picking up.
No, I will not. Shout out to them. They out there, and they understand where my heart is at. But specifically, getting the pure, unadulterated, and unbothered reaction from kids about the stuff that they got going on in their day-to-day was an ultimate relaxation situation, man. I found out some new dances that I definitely ain't busting out no time soon.
Yep.
I found out about new websites that kids is on. I was hearing them order all different types of food and stuff like that, and I'm just hearing what the download is on a regular basis. It's like, yo, I'm not at this level of adult to handle this on a daily basis.
You are removed.
But I'm happy that this exists, man.
You're finding your youth again.
The very next day, though,
Uh-huh.
I got a chance to tap in with a space that was not too far from my place. And, man, I got a chance to see something called By Any Other Name. I got a chance to check out this By Any Other Name dispensary. Comes from the analogy of rose by any other name is still a rose. Now, they're talking about the flowers, Kyle. Now, if you don't understand, I'm
picking
trying
up
to
what you're putting down.
trying to kick it
I was
right here
thinking
for you.
Aretha right there, because a rose.
A rose is still a rose, baby girl.
You still a flower. Don't let him break you.
Speaking of flowers,
Uh-huh.
I definitely got a chance to check in and tap in with some fast-acting peach gummies from Wana. Now, we've had an experience with these before.
Yep.
Kyle, I got to tell you that I grabbed a set of these for my own personal relaxation situation throughout the course of the week, and it has been leading me into some deep reflexive kind of emotions, my man.
Did you take that walk?
I definitely took a long
little
walk.
stroll?
Yeah, exactly. After I figured out that it was like, all right, we got to get the kids where they need to be. All right, Uncle Tony's going to check out. I'm going to go ahead and do my thing now.
Now let's unpack the staff, right? Because the staff in the parent line and the pickup line. Let's just talk about that.
I was
for a
getting
little
all
bit.
types of hot energy.
Hey,
It was,
hey, you. Those are yours. Is that what you do?
I was getting all types of energy. This teacher was like, hello there.
Yeah.
Are you coming back to the book sale later on? I was like, oh, hey.
Absolutely
We
not.
got to hit pause on this one.
You keep your books to yourself.
God, what are you hoping for coming out of this week?
I hope when the time comes that you make the right move. Mm-hmm. That's that simple. Now, I ain't done yet. Harkening back to this PTA line. No. I do resonate with the energy of, as you were describing earlier, you described your Wolverine-ness, if you will, you know what I mean, as your spiritual animal. Now, with my spiritual animal being the flamingo, right, I often cause a stir when I walk into places, right? I understand the PTA energy because I receive that energy every day when I walk into new spaces. There's a look of like shock, there's a look of envy, there's also like confusion. There's so many emotions that people feel when I walk into spaces. Like it's a wild thing to just live with,
Yeah, no, I could concur.
Sounds like you're hoping for something, Tony. What you hoping for?
My moment of hope came about by listening to the Inevitable podcast with J. Cole. Okay, now I did see
a little rollout of that. Yeah. Talk me through it.
So I think it's the 10-year anniversary for Forest Hills Drive.
Something like that.
Somewhere around there. We will do the fact check on there. J. Cole has rolled out a podcast series that kind of goes along with his story on how literally the warm up to all the different whole like sideline story series that he had, his mixtape run. He has a podcast that talks through where he was at and how he was, doing everything that he needed to chase his way to getting on before he was J. Cole that we knew today, right?
Yes.
So the podcast series is something that is definitely informative, is definitely exciting, and it's inspiring. But in one episode in particular, he's talking about a bike ride that he did on the West Side Highway. Now, as he's detailing what he's going through on the bike ride on the West Side Highway, he talks about his whole message of love yours. And I would be remiss if I did not talk about how that directly correlates to legitimately the ride that I had the week before he decided to make this podcast.
You saying he saw some shit and he wrote about it.
So you never know who notices your work, even when people don't notice your work. And that's not even mine, but I celebrate it in the way that I do because it's like, I am surrounded by people who are in spaces that are inspirational to people that you don't know that they're being inspired by. My hope is that they continue to elevate and push forward, even in spite that you might not be getting what you know you deserve for that. You never know who actually sees that work. And I hope you keep pushing that work as high and as far as you can, because success is inevitable if you keep pushing it.
Man, you mentioned J. Cole, so we got to squash that a little bit with some Kendrick talk. You know what I'm saying? Now,
where'd that come from?
As I was driving in today, I saw a Grand National.
Okay.
I saw a white Grand National. Now, it wasn't a black one. It was a white one. But it got me to thinking about how strong an artistry is for you to then channel in on one thing, right? Like we often talk about the zoom in, zoom out. So if I zoom in and I can put all of my emotion, all of my feeling in this vehicle that is a GNX, a Black Grand National, and then look at the music that came from that, right? Like when GNX first came out, I was like, what kind of album name is GNX? There ain't no thought into that. And then after I lived with it, I was like, this is GNX energy right here.
This is what I need.
I need that Black National energy. You get what I'm saying? And I think to tie it into like this J. Cole, this inspiration, when you are a true artist, I think you can channel that artistry through any medium that you see fit. The challenge is making that one medium be representative of everything you need it to be. You know, so I do encourage folks to keep creating, man. Keep telling them stories, keep living life, and the people gonna see it when they see it.
Hey, man, and when they see it from us, Kyle, they're gonna need to know how to get in touch with us, right? So where could the good people tap in to find out about all things Off the Strength?
You can visit on Instagram at @offthestrength_, or if you're in the greatest city in the world, that is New York City. Sometimes you could come on down to Rockefeller Center, where you could see us record live and direct from Newsstand Studios.
Absolutely.
If you can't make it in, you could always visit online on Instagram at Rockefeller Center or X at Rock Center NYC.
Once again, it's been another fantastic episode of Off the Strength from a trainer called Tony.
KR Jones.
Peace and much love to y'all out there. Until next time, we'll see you soon.
Peace.
What's good, everybody? I'm a trainer called Tony, and I am here from the infamous Off the Strength podcast, asking you today, listeners, viewers, wherever you may be, to please like, listen, and subscribe to our podcast. This is how we're going to continue to be able to deliver you the best goddamn wellness information out here. So if you want to keep hearing this and you want us to keep growing, you are a part of this show just as much as anything else. So please go to offthestrength.com. Make sure you check out our blog, Make sure you check us out on IG. And if you're hearing this voice and you didn't hit that subscribe button, know that Kyle is going to come looking for you.
You got that right.